How to make something beautiful without rules. Have you ever sat down with a blank page, a piece of fabric, or even just your thoughts, and felt like you didn't know where to begin? Like something inside you wanted to create, but an invisible wall stood in your way? Maybe you told yourself you're not creative, or maybe you felt you needed a plan, a technique, a structure, some kind of rule book to follow. But what if I told you the most beautiful things often come from the messiest beginnings? And what if I told you, you don't need permission to make something beautiful? At this point in life, you've followed enough rules. You've lived through decades of doing things the right way. Raising children, holding jobs, keeping homes, managing responsibilities. You've colored inside the lines long enough. And now, you deserve the joy of scribbling outside them. You see, beauty doesn't come from precision or perfection, it comes from expression. From honesty. From moments when your hands move before your mind catches up, and suddenly, you're left with something that surprises even you. Whether it's painting, writing, arranging flowers, sewing without a pattern, or dancing to a tune that only you can hear, there is power in creating without rules. Let me tell you a story. There's a woman I met, her name's Esther. She's 74, lives alone in a small town, and she had never painted a day in her life. She used to say, "I'm not an artist. I can barely draw a stick figure." But one afternoon, on a whim, she bought a $12 watercolor set and a stack of dollar store paper. No plan. No YouTube tutorial. She dipped her brush in color, splashed it on the page, and didn't stop until it was covered. Then she did another. And another. None of them looked like anything you'd see in a gallery, but they were hers. Every single one told a piece of her story, days when she felt joy, loneliness, hope. Those colors became her voice when words felt too heavy. And do you know what happened? A neighbor came by one day, saw them scattered on her table, and asked to buy one. Not because it was flawless, but because it was felt. And now, Esther paints every Sunday, not for money, not for praise, but for the sheer thrill of seeing something appear from nothing. You don't need a canvas to make something beautiful. You could rearrange your living room just because it feels better. You could bake a cake without measuring anything and decorate it like a wild garden. You could sing while you sweep, wear mismatched socks on purpose, write a poem that doesn't rhyme, plant flowers in old boots instead of pots. That's the magic of creating without rules. It reflects your spirit, not someone else's expectations. The truth is, when we reach a certain age, we realize that beauty isn't what we thought it was. It's not in smooth skin or polished perfection. It's in the cracks where the light gets in. It's in the laughter lines, the tremble of a hand, the courage to try something even if no one else understands it. And here's something else, creating like this isn't just fun. It's healing. When we stop judging ourselves and just let ourselves play, something inside loosens. The tension in our shoulders. The quiet worries in the back of our minds. The heaviness of years gone by. It all begins to lift, little by little, like exhaling after holding your breath. So if you've ever wanted to paint, write, garden, dance, sew, build, sing, or even just arrange your spice rack in rainbow order, go for it. Not because it'll win an award. Not because it'll be better than anyone else's. But because you wanted to. And that's enough. You might be thinking, but what if it looks silly? Then it looks silly, and that's wonderful. What a gift to be able to do something simply because it brings you joy. Children do it all the time, and they never question it. Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught to stop. Taught that only good art counts, that hobbies have to become side businesses, that there's a right and wrong way to do everything. But now is your time to unlearn that. To make space for joy without judgment. To surprise yourself. To find beauty in crooked lines and messy colors and tunes that go nowhere. You've earned that freedom. And maybe, just maybe, by letting yourself create without rules, you'll discover something even deeper, pieces of yourself that were waiting all along to come out and play. You might not even notice it at first, but the moment you give yourself permission to create without needing a reason, something shifts. There's this little spark, quiet, but powerful. It whispers, what if? What if I try this? What if I don't worry about the outcome? What if I let myself enjoy the process, not just the product? One of the most beautiful things about reaching this season of life is that you finally get to redefine what matters. You don't have to impress anyone anymore. You've done the hard parts, now it's about reconnecting with what makes you feel alive. And sometimes that begins with the tiniest act of rebellion, breaking the rules you never realized were holding you back. Take Jack, for example. He's 68 and used to be an accountant, neat, precise, always sticking to the numbers. When he retired, he didn't know what to do with himself. Everything felt too quiet. Too still. Then one day, while waiting for his wife at the craft store, he wandered into the yarn section. Something about the colors pulled him in. He had no clue what to do with them, but he bought 3 skeins anyway. That weekend, he watched a few videos, learned how to finger knit, and started weaving what he called abstract scarves. They didn't follow any pattern. Some were too long, some too thick. But they were bright and wild and full of life. And Jack? Jack said knitting saved his mornings. Gave him a rhythm. Something to look forward to. What made Jack's creations beautiful wasn't technique, it was soul. And the truth is, soul always shows through. You can't fake that kind of energy. When you stop chasing perfection and start following curiosity, you invite something deeper to surface. And maybe that's what we're really talking about here. Not just making something pretty, but making something real. Something honest. Something that reflects you. Now, I'm not saying every creation will be easy. In fact, the first few might frustrate you. You might sit down to draw and find that your hands don't move like they used to. Or the clay won't cooperate. Or the words feel stuck in your throat. That's okay. That's part of the journey. The point isn't to master the art. The point is to let the art work on you. There's a kind of quiet joy that comes when you realize you don't have to be good at something to enjoy it. That joy is sacred. It's soft and strong at the same time. Like the feeling of walking barefoot on grass after a long winter. Like hearing a song from decades ago and still remembering the words. Like finding a new version of yourself you didn't know was waiting. And the funny thing is, once you stop trying so hard to do things the right way, you often end up discovering a style that's uniquely yours. Maybe you doodle strange flowers with mismatched petals. Maybe you decorate cupcakes in a way that looks like tiny landscapes. Maybe you hum made-up lullabies while watering your plants. It doesn't need a label. It doesn't need to fit inside anyone's expectations. You don't need credentials to be creative. You don't need permission to explore. All you need is a little space and a little courage to let yourself begin. I once heard someone say, rules are just someone else's solutions to their problems. Think about that. So much of what we call rules in art and creativity in life was invented by someone who needed a certain path. But that doesn't mean it's your path. You have your own rhythm. Your own way of seeing the world. And that deserves to be expressed. So maybe today, you grab a pencil and sketch the view from your porch. Not because it'll be good, but because you want to notice it more deeply. Maybe you write a letter to yourself from 10 years ago. Maybe you cut out words from magazines and create a poem on your refrigerator. None of it has to be polished. None of it has to be shared. It just has to be yours. And here's the best part, you don't have to know where it's going. You don't have to plan the ending. The process is the point. Like walking without a map, just to see where the road curves. Like laughing halfway through and realizing you've forgotten to be afraid. When you step into that space, where there's no pressure, no timeline, no comparison, you start to hear yourself more clearly. You remember what your own voice sounds like. And that voice? It's worth listening to. So don't wait for inspiration. Don't wait until you feel ready. Pick up something, anything, and start. Scribble. Stitch. Sing. Play. Tear the paper. Paint with your fingers. Glue shells to a shoebox. Do it your way. Trust that whatever comes out of it, even if it's lopsided or strange or unfinished, it's still a reflection of something true. And as you continue down this path, this beautiful, uncertain, playful path, you'll start to notice something else. You'll begin to feel lighter. Not because your problems disappear, not because everything becomes perfect, but because you've made space inside yourself for wonder again. You're not just passing the time. You're reclaiming it. Every mark you make, every color you smear, every note you hum, is a quiet declaration: I am still here. I still matter. And I still have something to say, even if no one else hears it but me. There's a kind of power in that. Not loud, not flashy, but deep. Quietly rebellious. It says you're not done growing. That even now, you can discover new parts of yourself. That even after all these years, you can still be surprised by who you are when the rules fall away. Sometimes, people ask me, but what if I waste my time? What if it goes nowhere? And I always smile. Because beauty isn't about the destination, it's about the being. The being present. The being bold. The being brave enough to try. You know, there's a kind of beauty that only age can bring. Not the kind that comes from smooth surfaces or polished lines. But the kind that's earned. That's lived in. The kind that speaks through your hands, through your laughter, through your silence. It's the beauty of knowing that rules are suggestions, not shackles. That you're allowed to break them. And that you're never too old to begin again. So here's what I want you to take with you: you don't need a plan. You don't need talent. You don't need anyone else's approval. What you need is the courage to start. The kindness to be gentle with yourself. And the openness to see where the process takes you. Let your creativity be wild. Let it be weird. Let it be inconsistent, messy, joyful, healing, and totally unexplainable. Let it be yours. And if you find yourself smiling halfway through, or laughing at how crooked your sculpture turned out, or crying because something unexpectedly touched a part of you, you'll know you're doing it right. Because real creation touches something inside you that nothing else can. You have nothing to prove. You've already lived 1,000 stories. This is just a new chapter, one where you get to write in your own handwriting, with your own colors, in your own time. So, my friend, if no one has told you lately, what you make matters. Even if no one else sees it. Even if it never hangs on a wall. Even if it lives only in your notebook, your garden, your kitchen, or your heart. It matters, because you matter. And if you feel brave enough, I'd love to know what you're working on. Share your story in the comments. Maybe it's a project. Maybe it's a feeling. Maybe it's just a moment you allowed yourself to try. Whatever it is, your voice might be the exact encouragement someone else needs to take their first step, too. If this video spoke to you in any way, go ahead and click that like button. It helps more than you know. And if you want more gentle reminders like this, don't forget to subscribe. We're building something beautiful here, one story at a time. Until next time, keep making. Keep playing. Keep being you. Here's to living your most beautiful, rule-free life.